And then the group as a whole needed to agree upon common skills. What is really needed from our students? So when they get their 5 weeks, when they get their certificate, how do we know that they're coming to us with the skills really needed to be successful? And then setting minimum qualifications for entering the training. Who will qualify people and how? So this piece I think is really important because you need to have kind of a narrow door up front. You need to know you're getting good candidates that have integrity and work ethic. And so we set up assessment, which are these kind of pre-assessment testing. So you're looking at the aptitude of candidates. Also, we put in place background checks and drug testing. And what was neat about this, one of the comments I got together with some of the people, some of the members of the PET, so I made sure I was touching on all points that was important to everyone that's part of this program. And he made a good point, I didn't realize this, that a lot of the companies that joined the PET program, they didn't do things like background checks and drug testing. And so this really raised the bar for all industries as a whole, too, of making sure we're getting some good candidates in there that really do have that integrity piece. Then they also had to make sure that they come to each of the classes. So it's 5 days a week for 5 weeks. It's a pretty intense program. And so if they are tardy more than twice, then they're kicked out of the program. If they miss more than 1 day, then they're kicked out of the program. And this is so important because attendance is huge for any employer. And so, the thought is if they can go through this 5 days a week, 5 weeks straight and have great attendance, almost near a perfect attendance, then you're probably going to get an employee that is going to give you great attendance as well. There's a great story I have about 5 months ago. We had a gal, she was actually originally from the Seattle area, and her whole career was in banking as a loan officer. So for 15 years, that's what she did. And of course, we all know that that bubble burst, and she eventually was without a job and had nowhere to turn. No one's hiring that kind of skill set. So where is she going to go? And through our partnership with the WorkSource and SkillSource, she heard about PET program. And so she came here and went through this program. And here's a person that I don't think any of the production, whether it's human resources or hiring managers, they probably would never have given her a chance to come in that door, because you're looking at someone that doesn't have any skill set for production and probably doesn't really understand what is needed from employees. And so it would be a risky hire. She might come in for 2 or 3 weeks and decide, this really isn't for me, and then leave, and then you're out that money and that training. And also on safety standards. No idea what's really needed for safety, so there's a certain safety risk. And so this really gave us a level of comfort. She went through this program, she got a certificate, and was immediately hired. I think it took about a week. She immediately got hired on with a production company there in the basin, and she's one of their best employees that they have. But she probably wouldn't have been given that chance if it wasn't for a program like that really gave that level of comfort to the employers and also to the candidate as well. So continuing on, needed to promote the program and attract students. So this is where Jonathan's group came in. They really helped us with the materials and the advertising and getting everything out there to bring in good qualified candidates to come into the PET program. And not everyone is without a job, is on unemployment. We have several candidates that come in that actually are working a job, and they're doing this while working a full-time job somewhere else. But they're looking to make a career change. Maybe they've heard about the production industry through family or friends and decide, this is something they think that they would like to do and get out of whatever their current field is in. So we kind of get a good mix of people that come through this program. And then pre-qualifying the individuals for the training. So again, that's talking about the assessments. That's doing the upfront steps necessary to make sure we really are getting good quality. And 2 of the employers that are part of the PET program, they get together and they do an interview with each of these candidates. There's preset questions. And so that gives us a chance to put our stamp of approval saying, yeah, we think this person will be a high candidate for us once they graduate the program. And then conducting the training. And what's so neat about this is that it's usually 4 hours a night. And I could speak to what BASIC does. So they come in and they learn about lean manufacturing for about 3 hours. And then after they're done with the class, then they get all geared up in their PPEs and we take them out into the plant. And so they get to see firsthand how whatever they were trained on, whether it's lean manufacturing or maybe it's safety or quality, they can see firsthand how it's put into practice. They get to meet the different employees of that company. They get to see what that culture is. And so they get a chance to really see who they want to work for. And so they get to make a choice too, as well as the employer gets to make a choice. I really enjoyed how the student asked questions and seemed to really latch on to whatever the topic was. And then after 5 weeks, the graduation, the class, and you can begin hiring. So one of the rules that was put in place is to make sure that none of the employers could go to an employee that really stood out from the class and hire them halfway through the program. That you need to wait until they graduate the program and give them a chance to see each of the employers, and then they can have a choice as well, and then you can try to hire them. Okay, measuring success. So you see here, since the PET took place, we have 62% have been hired. And I talked to several of the different companies in the area because we haven't been a part of it for long, and a lot of success, very few mishires. And about 20% hired elsewhere, and 18% either not hired or unknown. We actually do attract some people out of the area too. In fact, I think it was 3 classes ago we had somebody from Idaho that came up specifically just for this class. So. And I'll turn it back over to Jonathan.
So the coordinator tracks, I'll just jump back to this slide, tracks everyone who comes into the class, knows whether they're working or not before they come in, and then we try to track their placement with companies afterwards. And this used to be a lot better. We used to have about a 97% hire rate. But as some lessons that we've learned, up there it says pros and cons to having an anchor tenant. And an anchor tenant, like at a mall, is a JCPenney's or a Macy's. Well, this program has several different companies. Most of them were on their logos were up there. But when the program started out, REC Silicon, which is one of the largest manufacturers there in Moses Lake, was what we would call our anchor tenant. We had a lot of people who signed up just so they could get in the door to see what REC Silicon is like, maybe meet somebody there and get in. And you can see the people who were hired here in blue and who weren't hired from that program that we could track. And REC, about 2 or 3 classes into it, dropped the program. The entry level that they were looking for, they really needed to have like a 2-year associate's degree in chemical operating and stuff, so it was above what we were training for in here. And so it just didn't fit. So they dropped out, and our numbers of people who were attracted to the program dropped down. The class size dropped down, but every single person in the class, however, got hired. And then we go over to class number 10, and that's when the new SGL BMW facility joined the program because they were starting up in the area manufacturing carbon fiber, wanted access to good quality workers, brought some new curriculum to the table to be taught, and class numbers jumped way up again, but the number of people who got hired went down because they came in for a specific employer. And so that was one of the things that is kind of difficult to balance, and also goes along with the managing people's expectations. Looks like it got cut off there. Another problem is like some of the class sizes were pretty small. You can see class size there. Number 5 was under 10 people. I think it was like 8 or 9. And about 10 people is what they decided made sense to run the classes at as a cost basis. And so a very small demographic. If we go all the way back to that first chart, how many people are first interested in a job in manufacturing, how many of those people already have a high school diploma or equivalent, and then how many of those people are too advanced for the program, how many of them have a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree or are already working in manufacturing, And so it's a really limited demographic for a small community like ours that we're trying to target an interest and attract to this area. So it's difficult sometimes to fill classes up to the capacity of about 20, 25. And then it's easy to come in the back door also. There's a lot of people who still just show up at the door and take their chances with getting hired with the manufacturer. And so that's been a challenge as well to the program. But I think that the main key to it is that it was developed and driven by the private sector, by businesses who know exactly what they need and what they expect from an employee. So as opposed to being curriculum that's created by a community college saying, well, you just tell us what skills you need and we'll develop the curriculum and train them for it. This was the opposite way around. The private employers said, this is what we need trained for and this is how we want it trained. And then they train more than 50% of the classes. And some other classes like CPR and different things like that are taught by the community college. Some math classes are taught by the community college and some are taught by employers, so they can really be applicable to the job. And so the role of the Economic Development Council, the role of WorkSource, the community college, is just to support and take direction from the industry so that we make sure that what we're doing fits their needs. And that's really what's made this program, I think, a success and what's made it stand out from other programs that the community college offers. The president of the college gave his State of the College address about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he mentioned this program specifically because if you go back to the numbers here, I think that if you put all of those together, there's 170 graduates from the program, and as you can see, 82% of those to date that we know have been hired locally. That's a pretty good statistic for, you know, a small 5-week program at a community college to be churning people out like that and getting them hired in the local community. And so he was something that he was really excited about and wants to see continue. And the community college acts as the fiscal agent for the program. All the money comes in and goes out through them. And they also are provide the coordinator for the program. So it's all housed at the community college. And so it's been a great opportunity for them to get to understand business better as well and what the needs of the industries are, and to look at other programs that might, you know, maybe not be pre-employment training, but maybe a step above. What can we do better to help train workers for that? So it's really kind of changed the dynamic of we train people and you hire them to you tell us what we need to train and tell us how we need to do it. And so that's been a success.